Hey guys, welcome back to another video lesson. Today we're going to be looking at formal triangle proofs using the reflexive property as well as vertical angles. We're going to be proving that our triangles are congruent using side, 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 angle, or HL. Let's go ahead and look at what a formal proof looks like. Alright, so to begin with, we have our given information like we did before. We're going to go ahead and write down all of our given information as our first statement. So we have FE is congruent to CB. We have AB is congruent to DE, and then we have CA is congruent to FD. Again, our first reason is always because it was given information. Before I move on to my second statement, I'm now going to go ahead and mark my triangle. So again, we had FE and CB are congruent, then we had AB and DE are congruent, and then we had CA and FD are congruent. All right, now that we have all of our stuff marked, if we look at our triangles, we want to identify, are they congruent, and if so, how can we tell? Looking at these two triangles, they are both congruent using the side, side, side theorem. So then we would just go ahead and say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Let's go ahead and look at another example. Once again, we have some given information. We're going to write that down first. So we can say FE is congruent to CB. We can say AB is congruent to DE. And this time we have an angle. We have angle CBA is congruent to angle FED. Once again, we're going to go ahead and mark that. So this time FE and CB are congruent, AB and DE are congruent, and then we have angle CBA, which is this bottom one, and angle DEF, which is the other bottom one. Oh, and I forgot to put my reason. Again, the first statement is always because it is given. All right, now before we move on to our second statement, we want to look at our pattern, see are the triangles congruent, and if so, how do we know? In this case, they are congruent using the side angle side theorem. And we would go ahead and write down our two triangles. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. All right, let's go ahead and throw in our vertical angles. To review vertical angles, we want to make sure we know what they are. So again, vertical angles are two angles formed when two lines intersect. So for our first diagram, we can see in this region we have our vertical angles, and they are marked as being congruent. So again, vertical angles are always congruent, and in fact, that's going to be our reason. If we can show that angles are in fact vertical angles, that is why they're congruent. So looking at our second diagram, again, we can see in the very middle there, we have vertical angles, and we would put in marks to show they are in fact, again, congruent. So our statement would be naming the angles, and then our reason that they're congruent would be, again, vertical angles. Now let's incorporate this into a proof now. So as with the other two examples, we're going to go ahead and write down our given information first. So we have AP is congruent to PE. And then we have angle ABP is congruent to angle EKP. And again, that is our given information. I'm going to go ahead and mark that. So I have AP and PE. And then we have angle ABP, which is over here, and angle EKP, which is over there. All right, looking at our diagram, we have a side and an angle, which is not enough, but we can see that our triangles are connected, which means that we do have a set of vertical angles. So I would go ahead and mark those. So for my statement, I have to name those two angles. I would name the left angle as angle APB, and that's going to be congruent to the angle on the right, which would be angle EPK. And again, our reason for this is that they are vertical angles. So vertical angles are congruent. All right, now we definitely have enough. If you look at the triangle on the left, we can see that we have one angle, a second angle, and then a side. And if the second triangle matches up, then they're both going to be congruent by angle, angle, side. So we can move on to our final proof here, which is that triangle APB is congruent to triangle EPK. Let's go ahead and try this again. All right, so for our next one, we have the same diagram, but we have a different set of information. So we're going to focus on this given information, which is AP is congruent to PE. And then we have BP is congruent to KP. Once again, that is because it is given. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and mark that. So AP and PE, and then BP and KP. All right, again, looking at our triangle, we have two sides, which is not enough information, but we see they're connected in the middle. We have angles formed by two intersecting lines, which means that we can go ahead and mark them as congruent once again. This time our statement is going to be the same. So we have angle APB is congruent to angle EPK. And once again, this is because vertical angles are congruent. Now looking at the two triangles, we want to try and identify the pattern. So with the triangle on the left, we have side, angle, side. With the triangle on the right, we also have side, angle, side. So our reason these triangles are congruent is just that, side, angle, side. And we would list our triangles. So triangle APB is congruent to triangle EPK. All right, let's go ahead now and switch our focus to using the reflexive property. Just to review for our reflexive property, if two triangles share a side, as we can see here, well, that didn't show up very well. So since they share that middle side, we can say that they are going to be congruent because of the reflexive property. Same thing for our second diagram over there. We can see they share this side in the very middle, which means that they're going to be congruent using the reflexive property. All right, let's incorporate this into a proof. Okay, just as with all of our other problems, we're going to start by writing down the given information. So in this time, we have AX is congruent to AY, and then we have XM is congruent to YM. Again, that is our given information. We're going to go ahead and mark that in our diagram. So we have AX and AY, and then we have XM and YM. All right, again, we don't have enough information to say that the triangles are congruent. We have two sides, but if you notice, they do share this middle side, which means that our second statement would be that AM is congruent to MA, and a reason for that is the reflexive property. Now looking at our triangle, we're going to identify the pattern that could tell us their congruence. For these two triangles, they are congruent using side, 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 and we would go ahead and write down our proof, which is that triangle AXM is congruent to triangle AYM. All right, one final example incorporating the reflexive property. Let's go ahead and finish up with this next one. Again, we have the same diagram to begin with, but we have a different setup. So if you look at our given, we have angles this time. All right, so we have angle AMX is congruent to angle AMY. And then we have angle XAM is congruent to angle YAM. Again, that is our given. If I go ahead and mark these, angle AMX, that's going to be this one in the very middle on the left. Angle AMY is the one in the middle on the right. And then we have angle XAM, which is the top left, and angle YAM is the top right. All right, so for both triangles, we have two angles. We can see it's not enough information though. Once again, though, using the same diagram, we can see we have a side that the triangles share. So we can mark that as being congruent, which means we would write down for our statement, AM is congruent to MA. And again, the reason for this is the reflexive property. Okay, now looking at our two triangles, we want to identify the pattern. The triangles are definitely congruent using the angle, side, angle pattern, and we would just name our triangles in. So our statement is going to be triangle AXM is congruent to triangle AYM. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this lesson. Go ahead and start working on the assignment now.